Greetings and welcome to episode 59 of Morrowind Modding Showcases. As always, I'm your host, Elf Guy, and today we have another selection of 13 random themed mods for your viewing pleasure. But before we get to all that, I do have a few things to announce real quick. First, and perhaps most obvious, we've upgraded our hardware for the channel, thanks to a, anonymous donation. And this effectively means that we shouldn't have too many FPS issues from now on. This will be the first majority framerate issue-free episode, and going into the future, all of our videos should be able to run at a smooth 30 FPS, except for the occasional PBR mod, of course. A big thanks goes out to that anonymous donor for making this episode possible, and for making all future episodes a lot better. And now the second thing I wanted to mention real quick is that next week's episode will be an updated look at Morrowind Rebirth 4.0. And I know, we already showcased Morrowind Rebirth, but that was over 2 years ago, and there's been some pretty big changes since then, effectively making that episode completely out of date now. And one last thing I do need to talk about real quick, we're making a slight addition to the video editing here. For the first 10 seconds of each mod showcase, you'll notice a note at the top of the screen indicating whether or not a mod needs to be cleaned before use. Now, we've included a mod cleaning warning down in the video description for a long time, as well as mod conflict information and a tutorial on how to clean mods, and you'll still find all that down in the video description, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of older mods are dirty and can corrupt your game if, not cleaned first. And not everyone pays attention to the video description warnings, so we're making this slight addition here just to make sure that everyone is aware that they need to clean a mod first before playing. And anyway, that's about everything I wanted to cover, and of course you can still find all the download links to the mod shown in this video down in the video description below. So let's get things started with our popular mod of the week, which this week is Apel's Lighthouse Retexture by Apel, and this is a complete texture and model replacer for the Lighthouse in Calislahn, providing a newer and more modern take on Morrowind's only Lighthouse in the vanilla game. And for the most part, the author keeps the original, sort of style of the Calislahn Lighthouse, with its cobbled together and sort of run-down look that so perfectly captures the atmosphere of the Bitter Coast region. But obviously, this new replacer is far more detailed, and if we get a bit up close here, you can see that the texture and model work is just really fantastic, with a lot more, evident wear on the stonework, and a almost sort of, wet and cold feel to the materials here. Now, it should be noted that this mod actually comes with two versions. One that's a bump mapped replacer, which is what we're using here, and one that's a normal replacer in case you don't like the bump mapping effects. And either way, this is a really beautiful replacer for the Calislahn Lighthouse that captures the sort of hand-built nature of the tower here. But more than that though, this replacer also replaces the interior of the lighthouse, so it matches with the exterior. And we're just going to take a quick look around inside here, and you'll notice the stairs are especially noticeable with their sort of, rough-hewn stone style. Though you also notice that the walls are also quite nice looking and, quite striking. Now, just a note here, this will cause a few minor object bleeds here and there, since the surface of the stairwell is now rough and uneven, rather than a, sort of flat surface that it was before. So you might see a few objects like the raft's wedding dowry sticking out of the floor a bit. But other than that, this is just a really nice and beautiful replacer for a classic Morrowind's landmark. For House Mod of the Week this week, we have Balmora River House by Calislahn, and this is a fairly simple starter home that adds a new house to the outskirts of Balmora, with a small little dock area on the Overdose River that leads up to the house itself, along the main road out of the town gates here. And this small halalu-style abode includes a nice little alchemy garden of flowers and other plants on the roof here, for your alchemical needs. But before you can move in, you'll need to get the key from Chaos first, which includes a short note that provides a basic background story for this abode. And inside, you'll find a very small but also rather cozy house to call your own, with a first floor that includes a study with bookshelves for displaying items, a small dining and kitchen area with a small table and oven for preparing food, a bedroom divided off by wall screens in the back, and downstairs you'll find an alchemical lab including labeled ingredient jars, a set of basic alchemical equipment, and an ingredient sorter for organizing your various alchemical ingredients. And obviously this is a pretty good home for alchemists especially. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Correspondances of Morrowind by Cliffworms, and basically what this mod does is really expand the amount of common notes, lists, letters, correspondence, and other flavor documents that you can find around the towns, cities, villages, and dungeons of Morrowind. And with this mod, you'll find over 180 new documents scattered all over the game world, including handbills and advertisements for local guilds and services, which you can often find littering the tables of local taverns. And these are sort of like the handbills that you find in Oblivion, really, and they add an extra degree of immersion to the game. You'll also find a lot of personal letters and other correspondence between, various characters in the game, adding a bit of world building to the people that you meet. And you also find things like, shopping receipts for various purchases like furniture, or shopping lists that around the various residences and homes of NPCs across Vvardenfell, as well as fun little, world details and tidbits like missing shipments and bandit raids and other things of that nature. And of course, these new documents aren't just in the towns and cities. You also find them in dungeons, providing a bit of flavour and life to these people that you would otherwise just butcher and move on, which does kind of add an extra dimension to the morality of what you're doing. And anyway, this is just a really fantastic mod. Not only does it add extra immersion to the world around you, but it also adds a lot more for you to read with, fun little details about the environments and people you're meeting. And as I'm sure you guys know, I'm a sucker for new stuff to read, so if you're like me, this is definitely one mod that you should absolutely check out. Next up, we have our Town Hall of the Week, which this week is Ayla's Seedanine by Ayla. And this is basically an expansion and overhaul, Seedanine, that, changes the look of this swampy coastal city, as well as adding new buildings, markets, and docks that provide a variety of services. Perhaps the first and most notable change that you'll, find right away is a fairly decent-sized outdoor market that extends from the middle of town all the way towards the Lighthouse, with about 8 or so merchants offering a variety of different wares, offering a little bit of, bartering gold, that range between 300 and 1,000 gold to trade with. And another major change is to the lower shack district of Seedanine, which is now much more colourful, including lots of lovely flowers decorating the exterior of these otherwise drab little shacks. And now the Seedanine market here is sort of centered around the Lighthouse, with a new building to the side here that acts as the general quarters for the merchants who set up shop here. And you'll find, among others, a fish market, outdoor bar, and other shopping stalls available for you to check out. And anyway, as I mentioned before, there's a small docks area, which includes a longboat to, other towns, as well as a couple of fishermen that have some unique dialogue in a small shack where they live here on the edge of town. And going over to the other side of town, the main road into Seedanine has also largely been changed, with a lot more trees and few new buildings added along the main road here, which makes the area look, rather scenic in my personal opinion. Now, it should be noted that this mod will of course conflict with a lot of other mods out there that change or update Seedanine, as well as a ton of house mods, so just, keep that in mind, and like the mod cleaning warning suggests, you absolutely must clean this mod before playing it. And personally, I rather like the design and style of the Seedanine expansion, but the mod itself is quite dirty, and you should be aware of that. And anyway, there is one new quest added, and of course I won't spoil it. I will mention though that you're going to need a teleport spell of some kind in order to complete it. And moving on, here you can see the new tavern that's been added to Seedanine, which includes 2 different rooms for you to rent, a standard fare single bedroom or a double. And this does give you a few options for when you, first start the game and need a place to stay. You'll also find a small real estate office here with 2 houses for sale, including one for about 8,000 gold and one for 4,500 gold. And it should be noted that you should, really install this mod after you've completed the missing tax collector quest, since this mod does replace a shack in town with a player home. And if you played that quest, you probably know which shack I'm talking about. And anyway, you can see one of the 2 homes here, and it's a bit on the small side, with a dining area, kitchen, and bedroom all on the first floor here, and a sizable basement with a fair amount of storage, and a lot of display tables that you can use. And this is a rather nice starter home for your character. For our items of the week this week, we have Sil's Pottery by Solaria, and this one adds a small shop outside the city of Malagmar. That's really not much to look at on the exterior, just a small shack along the water here. But going inside, you'll find a rather nice little shop that sells an assortment of new and unique pots, vases, cups, urns, and other various ceramic items. There's about 20 new items altogether, and they range in price from 1 gold for the more, sort of normal looking and everyday use ceramic cups to about 150 gold for the more decorative vases and urns that you can use in your own homes. And taking a closer look at these new items here, at first glance, they seem, like normal ceramic decorations of pots and pitchers coming in a variety of different colour schemes. But when you get up close, you'll notice that a lot of these new pots and urns have some Morrowind and Dunmer designs on them, Like you might notice Velothi frescoes along the side of one pot, or an image of Azura on another, or a couple of Dunmer on yet another one, and this is a rather nice touch that makes these new items sort of, blend in with the existing game world a bit. And there's some, pretty nice artwork on a few of these pots and vases, like you might notice scribs and Kwama forges on one, or decorative Morrowind eschew landscapes on another. And of course, there's a number of smaller and more plain pots, cups, and other minor dishware that still look nice, if a bit simplistic. And overall, this is just a really nice little items mod that you can use to decorate your homes with. This week's quest mod of the week is the Mystic's Path by A.P. Hilliard. And this is a very short and small quest mod that starts out when you meet a would-be scholar in the St. Olm's Temple in Vivek, looking for information about a missing mystic. Now, because this is a rather short quest mod, this is going to be a rather short showcase in order to avoid spoilers, but anyway, there's a fair amount of dialogue in this quest, and basically in order to find this mystic, you'll have to travel around Vaudenfell, following up on clues and information about the whereabouts of this mystic master and one of his students, who you'll eventually find dead in a tomb somewhere. Now, I do kind of want to, highlight the writing here, because this is a really well-written mod, and since there's not really a whole lot of content aside from a few small fights, the writing of this quest is really the main feature here, and in any event, this won't take you very long to complete, but it's a fun little quest mod that's pretty much compatible with everything, I think, so it's definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have our Landmass Mod of the week, which this week is Palace Savannah Schwar by Impaler, and I do apologise if I mispronounced the mod name there. It is a bit of an odd name. And anyway, this mod adds a new island off the coast of Vaudenfell that's, well, truth be told, another house mod. And yes, I know, we've been covering an absurd number of house mods lately, but we're kind of running low on Landmass Mod, so bear with me. And anyway, this is a scenic island with a small docks that leads up eventually to a large castle sitting atop the island's main hill here. And probably one of the more iconic features of this island abode is the custom watchtowers that you see down on the lower portions of the island here, which are certainly, quite interesting looking, and I believe these were made with entirely vanilla assets, which again just goes to show some of the potential here for cool and creative buildings with the vanilla resources. And anyway, going right down the middle of the island here is a small river and set of waterfalls that goes right up to the front gates of the castle here, and there's a rather scenic cliffside path leading up to the main castle grounds as well. And there's also a small courtyard out in the back here, which is again quite scenic, with lots of flowering gardens, a central fountain, a number of bettinets flying around in the air, and there's also a number of merchants back here who provide a number of services and goods for you to check out, and each merchant has about 5,000 gold, and it also includes at least one other service, like enchanting, spell making, training, or item repairs, as well as a number of, things that can be purchased. And going inside, you'll find a fairly straightforward entry hall with some rather interesting design features, such as this small wooden bridge going over an indoor pond and garden, as well as a roaring fireplace and a statue of Azura to add a bit of a grand sense to this entry hall. And since this castle is a player home, as you might expect, it does include a number of display halls, such as this one here that has a pretty cool looking entry, with some nice gardens either side, and this opens up into 3 different display hall wings with tables and display pedestals that you can use to show off your, hard-earned loot. And here's another display hall. This one is perhaps a bit more epic looking, with a really cool design, and this castle actually comes with 3 main display hall chambers, each one fairly different from the last, though this is probably my personal favourite. There's a number of, display pedestals in here, interspersed with gardens, and is surrounded by an indoor pool and fountains. And one of the neat things here is that you can use the towers to go up to the upper level balcony here, where you'll find more display pedestals and some nice views of the rest of the display hall in here. Now, taking a quick look at the last display hall in this castle, this one is perhaps a bit more, basic, with a simple squarish layout, with dozens of tables and display stands for you to use to show off your weapons, armor, artifacts, or whatever else that you want to, put in here. There's one small garden and fountain in the middle here, as well as a small balcony and upper level. And obviously there's also a master bedroom, which includes some gardens and fountains, and you might even say that's sort of a theme of this castle. There's certainly quite a few fountains all over the place, but anyway, there's a lower level bar for you to take some drinks if you so desire, as well as an upper level with your bed and a small seating area and closet. And anyway, there's just a couple of other rooms to show off here, including a small greenhouse that has a number of ingredients that you can harvest, and also a large storage cabin with several levels of well, crates for you to store your loot in. There's probably a few hundred crates in here, basically ensuring that you'll never run out of space, so the sameness of the containers in here might be a bit confusing for organizational purposes. Still, it's a pretty neat design regardless. For our NPC Mod of the Week this week, we're taking a look at Rincewind's Luggage by Superstar and Archimaestro Antares. And I believe we may have showcased this mod a bit a while back in one of our top 10 videos, but we've never, officially covered it here. And quite simply, this mod adds the famed luggage companion from the Discworld books, who normally accompanies Rincewind, and in fact, in order to get luggage to follow you, you're going to need to don Rincewind's hat, as well as a command ring, and then a variety of command spells that are conveniently contained within a scroll that you'll find in Luggage himself. And it should be mentioned that in order to unlock the luggage at all, you will need to find the key first, hidden somewhere in the Balmora Mages Guild. And once you do, you'll have a faithful chest-like companion who'll rise up and follow you around with his mysterious and sudden-appearing legs. Now, the luggage is, of course, a bit of an unusual companion, to say the least, though extremely convenient to have around. He has companionship naturally and can carry over 1,200 pounds of loot, missing limbs, and also various treasures. And he will follow you around everywhere, sometimes whether you like it or not. Leave the luggage alone for too long in one spot, and he'll just, teleport to you regardless of your desires. And of course, the luggage isn't just a container on legs, it's also an effective fighting companion, happily attacking anyone who tries to hurt you, or even comes near you for that matter, or possibly runs away from you. It's all the same to the luggage, and it can take quite a few hits and deliver a number of blows itself with its disturbing squarish white teeth. And if you're a fan of the Discworld books, or just want a new companion, you might want to, give this mod a try. This week's new Meshes and Textures Mod of the Week is Morrowind's Razor PBR by Flashy193, and like the name of this mod would imply, this is a complete model and texture replacer for the famed Daedric artifact, Morrowind's Razor, which you can get by doing a quest for Morrowind's Dagon in the vanilla game. And of course, this replacer includes support for physical-based rendering, which requires the latest update for the Morrowind graphics extended to work. And you can see my character holding Morrowind's Razor here with the PBR support turned on, and it's without question a beautiful and fantastic replacer with a lot of detail built into it, which you don't necessarily need PBR to appreciate, honestly. And because it's a bit hard to see the finer details while holding the blade here, we're going to drop it on the ground here and get a closer look so we can, really see all the amazing detail built into the blade here. And I mean, this is just a really fantastic model. Flashy193 has been doing just some amazing work with her weapon PBR replacers recently, and the quality of the craftsmanship here is just unreal. I mean, you can even see individual notches along the blade's edge here from being used in past fights, as well as intricate detail with the leather straps and hilt. Now, I've said this before when it comes to Flash313's mods, and I'll say it again, the model and texture quality here is easily Skyrim quality or above, far exceeding anything else from Morrowind. And real quick, I did just want to take a look at the version without PBR, which is also quite nice looking, and it should be mentioned that there's also an OpenMW version of this replacer available, so it can work on just about any Morrowind install that you have. Next up, we have our Modest Resource Mod of the Week, which this week is Burnt Imperial Buildings by Princess Sompa. And essentially, this resource includes a new retextured tile set and an assortment of Imperial buildings that have been given a more burnt and partially damaged look, as if they've been ravaged by a fire or something of that nature. And this includes most of the common buildings, such as the houses, shops, tavern, towers, and even the Cedarine Lighthouse, that have all been retextured with this new darkish burnt sort of look. And, personally, I think these buildings could work as, simply a darker themed alternative to the normal Imperial buildings, since the burnt damage to them doesn't, seem that obvious to me right away. But regardless, they do look fairly good, and, this is a great resource for, building some burnt or damaged towns, or perhaps, adding a sort of Imperial-style town to the Realms of Oblivion, or something of that nature. And the retexture does also include the windows and doors as well, in case you are wondering. And there's also a new interior tile set that matches the exterior of these common Imperial buildings, and this is basically identical to the original common interior tile set, only now, burnt. And something to note here, this resource does come with a .esp that has everything set up for you already as activators, so you can just drag and drop them into your own mods. For our underrated mod of the week this week, we're taking a look at Osium's House by FW, and this mod adds a new Imperial Legion officer to the docks at Ebonheart, as well as his home, a rather simple and plain Imperial house just south of Ebonheart in one of the most mod conflict heavy regions in the game. But anyway, while there's an NPC associated with this home, and the door is locked, it's far enough away from Ebonheart that you could, potentially break in if you want, or just pickpocket the keys from the Imperial Legion officer. But anyway, going inside, you'll find a very small, cozy, and lavish abode with a dining room and roaring fireplace on the first floor here. And the entire cottage is, quite nicely decorated, with lots of clutter from Imperial Legion adornments to dishes, books, and numerous other items. And downstairs you'll find the master bedroom, again nicely detailed and furnished, and you'll also find some background documents that add a bit of, flavour to the NPC that lives here. And now this can be used as a player home, since the NPC is never around, and there's actually a second version that you can use that's just an empty house, if you'd prefer. This week's Blast from the Past mod of the week is Toss Caverns by Daylin, and this one adds a set of interconnected dungeons and caverns to the Sheilgorod region, not too far away from Dagonfell, and at first glance these are some, fairly normal looking caverns filled with the undead, with a number of skeleton champions near the entrance here that you'll have to fight your way through. And truth be told, this is, strictly speaking, a Morrowind style dungeon crawl first and foremost, with a large dungeon complex to explore in the same vein as many of Daylin's other mods. And you may recall that we've actually featured a number of Daylin's mods in the past, such as Trade Disputes and the Telos Graveyard, both of which focused heavily on dungeon design. And the same is true of Toss Caverns here. And it should be noted that while you'll encounter lots of hostile opponents to face, this dungeon also comes with a number of traps that'll shoot deadly spells or dots if you're not too careful. And there's also a few riddles in here that you'll need to solve. And the author actually recommends you to be around level 30 or so before you start this mod, though personally I think you can probably get by starting at around level 20 to 25 for the most part. There's mostly undead creatures in here, from skeleton archers to the occasional lich, skeleton champion, bone lord, and other nefarious undead critters that shouldn't be too hard to take care of. But having said that, there's also a number of other opponents, like the more wizard and knight variety, that are heavily armed and will put up quite a fight, as well as Daedra with winged twilights and atronachs. In total, there's about 5 different caverns and dungeons included in this mod, each different from the others, and in order to gain access to each dungeon, you'll first need to, find the key located on one of the mini-bosses scattered in each dungeon cell. There's really not much of a story here, so much as a pure and simple dungeon crawl in the sort of Morrowind style. And while it may not look like much, this has often been one of my favourite dungeon mods. Like I said, it's, fairly sizable, with a good bit of loot, and a lot of challenge. So if you're like me and like playing through dungeons and finding hidden treasures and all that, you should definitely consider giving Toss Caverns a try here. Finally, for our bonus mod of the week this week, we have Balmora Candle Shop by Nathaniel Wolfson Schrader. And this is a fairly simple and straightforward mod that adds a new shop to the upper level manor district of Balmora here. And this shop is actually compatible with both Kilkunda's Balmora and more detailed places, in case you were wondering. And anyway, going inside, you'll find that this is actually a candle and lamp shop, as the name of the mod would imply, staffed by this NPC who has a number of light displays along the tables and counters in here. Now, in vanilla Morrowind, there really wasn't a way to reliably buy working light sources for your home or just to carry around. You had to steal candles here and there, or buy one or two from other merchants. So this is a convenience mod that simply provides a trader that stocks tons of candles, lanterns, lamps, and also a bunch of other hard-to-find miscellaneous items in the base game, such as paper rolls, soul gems, and so on and so forth. And this is a very simple but, nice enough mod to have around for lighting up all those interiors. And anyway, that wraps up this week's episode of Morrowind Showcases. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time with our special Morrowind Rebirth 4.0 showcase in about a week.